Money, money, money. It is said that money makes the world go round, and money is a part of our world. Whether it's going around or spinning too fast or going backwards, you have a relationship with money, and your relationship with money is also tied to your relationship to your magic. This week and next week, we are in the magical playground where money is the currency. Yes, I just used that pun. So what we're going to be doing, my friends, is just sitting with our own relationship to money in more than one way. So this week we have a double episode, and next week we have another money empowerment episode. So you've got 3 episodes to be with your relationship to money, wealth, abundance, prosperity. And this is important for us as women, because if we are the rising leadership, then having money gives us opportunity. Having money literally means we can have different choices for ourselves. We can leave something that's not working. We can create something that we want in the world. Because it's just a truth that money is maybe not making the world go around, but money is part of our world, and it is connected to our power, and it can connect to your magic and your purpose. So we want a positive relationship with money. And, I'm going to call it. Most of us have a complicated relationship with money. Working through money and our relationship to wealth and abundance is, I would say, in the top 3 of things that most humans are working through. We work through our love, we work through our relationship to ourself and our health and our purpose, and we work through money. So this is why over the next 3 episodes, you're invited to sit with a deep breath and just be curious and open. Where are you at with your relationship to money? And what would you like to nurture or change in this relationship? And to support you in that inquiry and in that play, we have 2 amazing women. One is with us this week. It's actually a double episode, and another next week that I'm going to introduce you to. But this week, let's stay here and ground into where we're at right now. Heather Sorry, Heather. I just completely messed up your name. Let me try again. Heather Esposito is a money relationship coach and a body code practitioner, and the host of the Sweet Freedom podcast. She's also the author of Love Yourself, a 28-day journey to love the skin and life you are in, and Smart, Sexy Sweets. Heather is a money relationship coach. So what she's doing is she's combining the tools of wisdom of the sacred money archetypes, energy clearing, and nervous system regulation. So Heather loves to help women release what's holding them back and heal their relationship with money to create more impact and more money. So this week we have this amazing double episode. In the first episode, we unpack Heather's work. What is this relationship between money and ourselves? What's that got to do with any energy work at all? And what is body code? We're going to work through all of that in this amazing conversation. And what it gives you a chance to do is to get really close to your relationship to money. And then in part 2, Heather goes through the sacred money archetypes with you so you can identify which archetype am I, and then with that knowledge, begin to work this relationship. So that's part 2. So for now, just take a big, deep breath. Let go of any emotions you have about your relationship to money that might be in your way to really openly listening to this episode, and just smile and affirm, I'm the freaking magic, and I'm going to choose abundance right now. Welcome to You Are the Magic, the podcast that is supporting women across the world to claim their magic within. I am your host, Deb D, and it's my absolute delight to share with you some of the amazing women that I know who are living big lives and making magic happen. They will be inspiration for you. I'm also going to be sharing with you some solo episodes with a little bit more about my story, the magic that I'm activating, and how you too can ignite and activate the magic within you. Because I believe it to be true. I do believe that you are the magic. And I do believe that it's time for women to reclaim our magic, our intuitive leadership, and our unique gifts and talents so that we can be the wave of change that we know the world needs now. So join me in connecting to the magic in you, the magic of women, and let's share just a little piece of how that magic can be activated today. Heather, thank you for joining me here in You Are the Magic and sharing your magic today. What a blessing to have you with me.
Thank you, Deb. I'm so excited to be here and just it's humbling to think about bringing the magic, and we'll get into talking about that. But I love that whole concept of bringing the magic, so I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, look, magic is expansive. I think magic is really expansive. So I'm excited about this conversation around the relationship between money and magic. But let's begin here. This is where I begin with all women who join me here on this magical stage, because I choose to invite women who I identify as living a big life, making the magic happen. That's you. So share with us all, in what ways do you create and make magic, and how do you share that with the world?
Yeah, well, and that's what I said. Like, it's humbling because we talked about this question, I was like, "Ooh, there's that part of me that feels like, oh, I can't say that. I can't, express that, right?" And then there's another part that's like, "No, that is not true at all. There's so much magic, that you bring to the world." And I know for me, the magic that I bring is helping people, especially women, to release the trapped emotions and the trauma and the bound energy that prevent them from being fully connected to themselves and from seeing their greatness. And as much as I was like reluctant to do it, literally I just got a text before we came on from a client that I'd worked with for a few years. We haven't talked in a bit, so I just reached out to her, and she was like, "Everything you've taught me, I put to use every single day." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." Like, it's just such a great reminder of helping people to see their greatness is one of the best gifts and the most magical things, in my opinion, that I could do.
Yeah, and I love how you got supported in, oh, am I allowed to say this? And then one of your clients is like, I just need to actually affirm this.
Yeah.
That this is still actually a deep impact in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Own it. Own
Yeah.
that magic, because you are the magic. And we're going to explore all of that today. And I want to begin with what I know is a big question, but it's like, this is the question I want to understand first so we can get deeper into this relationship. But in your knowing of the work that you do, what is the relationship between a woman's magic and money?
I think the key word there is relationship, and that it is a relationship. Most women don't realize that they can have a relationship with both of those things, and that those things have a relationship within themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but can you speak more about that in terms of that? Because I also find this in my work, that not all women realize I get to own my magic. I get to own my own spiritual practice. It can mean what it means to me, rather than I have to follow the person who's going to teach me, or the guru, or all of the instructions in the book. And so I definitely in my work find that that's what I'm doing, is I'm helping women develop a relationship with themselves and to actually see I'm freaking magical.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that turn up in your work with women and this relationship with money?
Well, and that's pretty much why I decided to start helping people specifically in their relationship with money is because money kept showing up in so many things. And money, or a relationship with money or lack thereof, is to me just a symptom. That's really not, people are like, oh, I have a problem with money, I have a bad relationship with money. And they'll lead with that thinking that that is the challenge for them. And I'm like, that it's not. It is a symptom. Just the same way a cough is a symptom of something going on internally. And if you just take a cough drop to cover up the cough, it's the same way as people are like, well, if I just win $1 million, I'll be fine. No, like it doesn't work that way. And our relationship with our own magic allows us to then have a deeper relationship with money, because money is really just about this value, and it's made up, right? And it's a system that we made up and that we all play into and say, this thing is worth this value, like these numbers, we'll give it, $10,000, like that's the value that I place on it, or 10 cents. It's all this way that we communicate with each other and express, well, this is how much value it is to me, this is how much it is to you. And when we don't believe in our magic, we hold that back from the world. And when we hold that back from the world, that then prevents the world from saying, here, I want to do this energetic exchange with you and give you this money so that you can then share your magic with me.
Yeah, I love that, how it's actually not about the money. Because what also came to me when you first said that is, I think also when people start to work on, I want to change my money mindset, or, let's minimize scarcity and bring in the abundance, because it turns up a lot in my work, Heather. Like it's one of the top 3 things that people will want to change in their life.
Yes.
Right. And so many people go back to what I think is our default now, which is, I grew up in a family where money was,
Mm-hmm.
And I started there. I was like, I'm the middle child of 7. I grew up in a family where there's just enough. There was always, we never lacked anything, but there was always just enough. But what I found in that is, it was like, okay, so that's a line of inquiry, but it gets to a certain point where it doesn't actually really dig into why is this continuing to happen?
Yes.
Like I couldn't get past it. I was
Mhm.
like, I can understand that. I'm one of 7 and da-da-da. I grew up where my mum was at home. My dad was at work. We only had so much money. It was just enough. And I could explore that, but it didn't actually help me to shift my money, to
Yeah.
shift anything.
Yeah. And that's where, for me, it's a process of understanding, and we'll dive into this a bit more, but understanding your relationship with money and your money archetype, right? And how what the empowering and disempowering strengths of that archetype are, plus energy clearing, going in and clearing out that energy, because there is a frequency that gets stuck in the body that it keeps you in that space of not enough, not enough, not enough, right? So every day you wake up and you're like, oh, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time. So we have to literally go in and rewire and shift out that frequency. And that's where the energy clearing piece comes in. And then the nervous system regulation, which again, I know we'll dive into this more, but the nervous system regulation part is the tools that you can use when you're interacting with money to keep yourself in a parasympathetic state, like in a rest and digest, like safe, peaceful, calm relationship. But if you are just doing the nervous system tools consistently and haven't gone in to clear that out, my mind gets so excited about this that I start talking too fast. Like my mind's going so fast and my mouth doesn't catch up. It's like you go in to keep putting these tools and putting these tools, but you haven't gone out and cleared it out. You're just going to have to constantly be using those tools. But if you go in and clear out that energy and rewire that energy, then the tools can support it, but they're not there to like keep you from going into that space. They're there to support the clearing out of the space already. Does that make sense?
It does. And what you share, well, it makes sense to me because it's similar to the work that I do. But also let's kind of slow it down and dive a bit deeper for the people listening or watching, because this is what makes the difference, Heather.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I believe is what you're presenting here is it's actually a holistic way. It's not, I need to solve my problem with money. It's like, I need to solve my whole relationship.
Yes.
Past, present, and future. And it reminds me of things like when people are saying, well, I tried that affirmation work and it didn't work for me.
Right.
And I'm like, of course, just an affirmation is not actually going to change your money mindset. If you say to yourself, I'm rich and abundant every day, but your energy body is holding energy of, I don't have enough, then you have a mismatch of energy.
Right.
That affirmation is just some fancy words, which I call sugar on top. Like if you don't actually feel abundant, then that's actually not going to shift anything. And we also are often thrown into these transformations without any framework, like what I call scaffolding, like what holds this together while we're unpacking it. So let's take that piece by piece. When you say energy clearing, what does that mean for you?
Yeah. So there's lots of different ways of clearing out the energy. And I will preface this by saying when I first learned about this, I thought it was, is it okay if I curse?
Yeah, I think we can all fucking curse here.
So when I learned about energy clearing, I thought it was a bunch of horseshit. I didn't believe it at all. And the person who was telling me about it and asked if she can do energy work on me for the certification she was in, she said, you don't have to do anything. I'll do everything remotely. And I said yes, because I didn't think it would do anything positive or negative. And I was like, she wants to waste her time. Great. Like, I could say yes and help her out, whatever. And I had been at that time coaching for Tony Robbins and had this thing that I just couldn't get beyond. And I had all these people be like, I'll coach you, I'll coach you. And I'd get in a coaching session with them. And then they'd just say, well, stand how you'd stand if you were that person. And I'm like, F you. Like, I know these tools. Like, if they worked, they wouldn't, but I wouldn't be in this conversation with you. I call it putting perfume on poop. If you're just changing the behavior, but you're not changing what's underneath of it. And so for me, when she started doing this work on me, it wasn't right away, but about 2 weeks in, I noticed that the heaviness on my chest was gone. And I started open. So I said, I need to explore this. And the energy work that she did and that I now do is called the body code. So, and there's two phases. There's the emotion code, and that's one that most people hear about a lot. And then the next phase is the body code, and it just goes deeper. And what it does is identifies the trapped emotions or trauma that's stuck in your body and clears them out. And it's such a beautifully simple process. I love it because it's very tangible. For instance, I have a group energy clearing that I do each week in this Facebook group that I have. And I'll send people like, this is what was released. And sometimes I'll do a whole group one. And sometimes I'll just say, say that you want something and I'll work on each person individually and release one or two things. And last week I did it and it came up for somebody that there's an emotional trauma. I can't remember what age, but I sent it to her and she messaged me later and said, that was the year that, and I don't want to, disclose her trauma, but it was this massive trauma that she had experienced. And she's like, you're really good. And I'm like, no, it's just your subconscious just wanted to know. I love the tangibleness of it versus, oh, I just waved my hands and cleared some stuff out. Like that type of energy work is effective and it's valid and it works for a lot of people. But just for me as a practitioner, I love the body code because it gives more of the tangible things. Here's an emotional trauma that happened at this age, or there's a trapped emotion of heartache, stuck in your heart at this age, or there's what we call a despair anchor, a negative statement that you say over and over again. We have to clear that out. So it just gives more tangible things as far as like clearing out the energy.
Yeah, and I think for some people, those tangible things are what they need to be able to anchor into the experience. Because in your story, you went into the energy clearing not even believing.
Not at all.
And it still worked.
Yes.
And that's why I also love working with energy, because your energy doesn't lie. It just is.
Yes.
It just is. And it's there to tell you a story, or it's there to help you agitate towards a transformation, or it's there to support you in some way. And not everyone understands that I can actually connect to myself as an energy being, as well as just a full human grounded in reality. Like it can be a yes and. Yes. You don't have to go completely out to the woo and be living in that world. It can actually really inform the work that you're doing. Like when I'm working one-on-one with people, not always, but a lot of the time when I'm wanting to get a really clear reading, I'll do an energy reading for them. There's a particular way that I've developed that I do an energy reading. And people are always like, whoa, that's all the truth. Whoa, that all is unlocked.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, and I didn't make it up.
Right.
Like this isn't just something that happened because you're connected to me. It's actually something that's available because we're in this relationship of being able to see you as an energy being.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a whole story there that is just so beautiful when we can, see our full selves as these energy beings. And I also get it. For some people, it's like, I don't even know how to put my hand on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does that even mean?
And I still, to this day, I've been now doing this for 9 years. As far as the energy work piece of it, I've been doing for 9 years. And Deb, I still am like, hope this works. Like there's still a part of me that when I explain it, I just think, oh my gosh, I sound ridiculous. Like, this is so ridiculous. And I see it time and time again. And that's why I can't, for me, in my work with people, just give them information about their money archetypes or here's what you need to do with money. To me, I'm like, let's get into the energy of it so that you can embody who you want to be. And we have to clear that gunk out. It's like you can't move into this new home if the old people are still living in there. You have to get all of their old stuff out, right? So that you can bring all your new stuff in. And if you want to embody a new way of being, we got to get this trauma cleared out. And we're not ever in a place where we're fully, like people are like, I just got to get to the place where I'm healed. It's an evolving process. We're all So and we can, right, shift our relationship with money and have a healed relationship with money while we're doing the activities to create more money in our lives. Like some people are like, I have to wait till I'm healed to do these things. No, it's a both end.
Yeah, it's a yes and again. And it's also it's like you said something really important there around the embodiment of it. Like I've started to really bring in this idea of like, particularly the women I work with, about inviting them to be her. Mm-hmm. Like be the woman who is healing your relationship with money. Be the woman who is accepting that you can receive more. And that can take some time for our muscle memory and our mind and everything to kind of get on board, so that you actually do feel that. But you don't have to wait until all of that is stitched up before you get to activate anything. It's all a part of the magical journey.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think another big key part of this is noticing the way that we judge ourselves as we go through an experience. Like before we got onto this, I had to do some financial stuff and I can feel my heart racing and I could feel some of those old things come up. And I was just like, okay, like I need to do some grounding exercises, need to do some breathing. One of the tools that I love when I find myself starting to get dysregulated is just, I love massaging my ear. That is one of my favorite go-to ones. For me, it just does a lot. So I did that. And there was this other voice that was like, you are about to be talking to people about money stuff. You shouldn't be feeling, stress or anxiety or any of these kind of things. And then I was like, that's not true. Like my body's going into, like at that point it was going into flight mode. It's like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. And then I realized that's a normal reaction, right? That's just one part of me that's like, I want to keep her safe and protect her. And the other part came in and said, it's okay. We got this. Like, we know that we can handle this. Everything will be fine. And so we think that I should never feel these big feelings, right? Big highs, big lows. And it's not about not feeling them. It's what's our relationship with them.
And then building tools to actually work that relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
Like you were saying, like you found that there's grounding and then there's your ear. Like the same with me, like two things that have happened recently around money. One is my business coach said, and that's a so many K offer. And it was the biggest number ever connected to my work, something I'm developing for 2025. And as soon as she said that to me, which was for her completely normal, like that's exactly the value. for me, I just took this big, deep breath and was like, whoa, God, really? Like, and I was like, am I that person? And then something more recently where I was, making an inquiry around investing in something for my business, and the investment was bigger than I thought it was going to be, but it's actually valued at that. And so then I was like, well, if I actually deserve to invest in myself. I actually deserve to value myself in this way. And what I'm finding, thanks to you and some of the work I've been doing myself, because I've been changing my relationship with my money and value and all of this, which is why we connected initially. What I'm finding is that the space between the trigger and me being able to calm my nervous system or calm myself down is getting much smaller.
Yes.
Much smaller, which means to me, it feels like the relationship's getting more intimate and more kind of workable, rather than a relationship that's kind of unknown and am I going to get it wrong? What's going to happen here? But that's what I'm noticing, which is where I'm like, okay, I'm still working on my relationship with money. I'm still working on my relationship with valuing myself and what I do. I think that that's going to be a longer journey than I probably want it to be. But recognizing myself in it, I can start to see, oh, this is actually working and changing because of these little moments where I'm realizing, oh, wow, it's not like I go into a spin for like a whole week or a whole day. It's like it's a few moments where I can pull myself back in.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really what it comes down to, is how can we be present to the presence of what's happening in that moment? When we're present to it, it allows it to move through us so much quicker. But when we come from a place of, oh, I'm feeling this and I have to get rid of it, I have to crush it, I have to push it aside, I have to fight it, overcome it, all the things that people talk about in the world of personal development and coaching, honestly, that don't help. It's how can we be present with it? So when I started to feel those feelings, it's like, okay, I'm feeling these. Let me just sit with it. Let me just move through it, not make myself bad or wrong that I had some stressful, anxious feelings about looking at some numbers.
Yeah.
And once I let go of that judgment and just was present with it, it just moves through. And I would have not been able to do that years ago. If I would come up, I would just be like, I'm running, I'm putting my head in the sand, I'm not dealing with this. Now it's, okay, they're here. That's okay. Doesn't mean that I'm a terrible person. Doesn't mean that I'm stupid. It means that I'm human. And so much of our humanness is, am I safe? And
am I safe? Am I enough? Am I allowed? Absolutely. And like you said, like money is a human construct.
Yep.
And we have constructed a world where it is so powerful. And I think one of the matches you and I have about the work that we do is we're supporting women, well, people, to remember actually you're powerful.
Yes.
Like you can change this. You can be actually in the driver's seat of what your experience is, what you want your experience to be.
Exactly.
Yes, yes, yes. Now, you say that there's 3 things that prevent people from having, developing this relationship with money. And I like a list. 3 is one of my favorite numbers. So I'm curious, what are those 3 things?
So the first one is something that we already touched on a little bit, is that believing that we can, when we make a certain amount of money, that then I'll feel safe. One of my coaches called this the evidence distortion. If this happens, then I'll feel this. When this happens, then I'll feel this. So people think when I make this money, then I'll be okay. And the reality is that's not true, right? Because if it were true, every person who's made over that amount would feel really safe and peaceful and calm and relaxed around money. And a lot of people don't. There's this Elevast study that says, it was in 2022, that says that 75% of women who earn more than $250,000 annually feel like they don't have control of their money. And I'm sure that somebody listening would think, oh, well, if I make $100,000, if I make 150, if I make 200, then I'll be okay. But again, the data doesn't show that that's true. And they also found that money is the primary source of stress for women, and more than half, with 59%, worry about money at least once a week. And that's because financial stress or financial peace, whichever way you want to go, is based on your relationship with money, not your actual amount of money that's sitting in the bank. For instance, I have a client who she's an accumulator archetype, and we'll get into the archetypes a little bit later, but her relationship with money in the past, when it was in disempowered state, the accumulator is the one who loves having money and they love saving money. And she was starting a business. She had a W-2 job as well. And she ended up getting let go from her W-2 job because their company was downsizing. And she said to me, Heather, I'd have to get another job. I only have $150,000 in my savings account. And I smiled because I know that accumulator, like I said, is her top one. And I said, there are so many people who they're like, oh my gosh, I have $150,000 in my savings account. I don't have to get a job for a while. But she's like, oh, I need to get a job. I only have that much. And so it's not about the amount, it's about your relationship with it. And so when you can understand that you are the solution, you are the apple tree, so to speak. I heard this Kyle Cease. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but I would listen to him years ago, and he talked about how people always think that they're the apple instead of being the apple tree. And it's the same with money. Is we think that we're the ones who, I'm just a little apple and somebody gives me life. It's like, no, you're the one that creates the apples over and over and over again. And this goes back to connecting to our magic. When we're connected to our magic, we're like, oh, I can just create. I can create more. I can do this and I can create more. So it always comes back to our relationship with everything, with our feelings, right? How can we be present to the presence of what's happening? How can we be present to what we're feeling in our relationship with money? What is our relationship with it? Because you can have a ton, and I've been there. I know people who are multimillionaires who are addicts, who are, have attempted suicide, who have all of the things in the world and are so completely shut off to themselves and to experiencing life in an abundant way. And I've been with people who are homeless, who are so completely grateful and abundant because they're connected to source, ultimately, whatever that is for you. But it's that thing that's bigger than yourself to know, wait a minute, we can create whenever we want. We're not at effect of everything coming to us.
Yeah. Being the creator. Absolutely. And if you're the creator, you can not only create it, you can expand it, you can amplify it, you can transform it.
Yeah.
Like, again, it becomes this creative possibility instead of this thing that has power over me.
Yeah. So that's number one, is thinking that, if I have X amount, then I'll be fine. And then the second thing that prevents us from really aligning with the energy of money is not understanding your unique money personality. Each of us has a money archetype, aka our money personality. And this is the way that we identify, or I shouldn't say identify, that we experience money, so to speak. And I truly believe that when we embody our money archetype, that is the key to unlocking the success in our life and business. And underneath of that, we have to be able to clear out the stuff that's preventing us from embodying that archetype. Right? So when we talk about wanting to grow our business or having a more fulfilling life, we're talking about making more money. And it's not just about making more money, but doing it in a way that feels aligned for you. And so many people go to coaches and the coach says, you got to do it this way. And then the person doesn't. They're like, why isn't it working? Well, because it's not aligned with your money personality. And how we do money is how we do everything. That's what Kendall Summerhawk, who created the money archetype, says. And so for me, the way that I want to do business can be very different than one of my mentors, because the way that we're wired. And so I have to do it in a way that feels aligned and true for me, not follow just because she said, well, this is what works. And so many people, Deb, I'm sure you see this, that so many people in the online space are like, well, this is what works. And the more truthful statement would be, this is what has worked for me. I'll share it with you, and it may work for you or it may not.
Yeah. I mean, I have spent a lot of time and a decent amount of money working other people's strategies in the hope that it would work for me.
Right.
And, I learned a lot of stuff in the process. Absolutely. I learned about what doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And it took me a while in business and, let me say, life, to figure out I actually get to decide how I want to do this. Like how I want to structure my business, what I want to offer, etc. And it comes back to that not only relationship with money, but I think it's also that relationship with self, isn't it? Like understanding yourself, because I know my money archetypes. Thank you very much, Heather. We're going to get to them in a minute, my friends, because you must be curious, because I was.
Mm-hmm.
And now knowing my money archetypes gives me a way to be able to see this relationship in a whole new way, so I can start to work with it.
Right.
Be with it. So that's number 2. Take us to number 3 before we dive deeper into the archetypes.
Yeah. So number 3 is the thing that prevents us from really aligning with money is having this regulated nervous system.
Mm.
What this means is like our nervous system is our body's command center and communication that's all rolled into one. And when we have stress, like say we have money stress, right? We'll be in an experience, we'll experience something that a lot of people say, well, that triggered me. So say you go and open up your bank account and you look at it and all of a sudden you feel this elevated emotion, right? So the emotion goes up. And I like to think of it, if you're just listening to this, as like a St. Louis arc or arch, I always forget. You have this starting point that's down at the ground, and then your emotion goes really high. And what happens is most people then shut it down at that point, and they'll do something like they will go to alcohol or drugs or food or caffeine of like, oh, I don't want to feel this, right? So they stop themselves by feeling it. And it's literally like, and I know this is such a juvenile example, but it's like when you have to fart and you just are like, oh, and you got to like pinch it off, right? And you're just like, I can't do this. I can't do this. So now you're holding this gas inside of your body and you're so concerned about holding this in that you don't have the space to be creative. The only thing that you're focused on is holding this thing inside of your body. And so when we shut down feeling and emotion, the energy gets stuck inside of us and inside our nervous system. And that creates an energetic frequency, a vibration in our body. And then our body starts to get familiar with that. And then it'll look for ways to keep creating that feeling and that emotion. And then our nervous system will go into these patterns. And we all have patterns that we run into when it comes to money. And each of the archetypes has their own specific pattern. So when we're in a fight or flight or freeze or fawn mode within our nervous system, we don't have the capacity to be, as you said earlier, like in that creator space.
Mm.
And so learning how to, again, shift that energy out of your body and to regulate your nervous system. And it's not about being flatline. It's about being able to move through the waves, because there's going to be waves. It would be so boring if you didn't have highs and lows, but it's making those highs and lows, the space in between them, be way different. Like you're saying, like you're like,
yeah, so they get smaller.
Right. And so it's the same thing with waves, right? So that we can have them smaller instead of like, oh my gosh, I can't get out of this.
Yeah, like to take the wave metaphor, it's like when you're in the ocean and the waves are really intense and the current is really intense, you're actually not enjoying yourself. You're just trying to survive.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a nice time having a swim. Like it's really intense when those waves are coming and it's either going to smash you out or you have to dive under it or you have to be watching behind your back that the wave may come. Like it's just not pleasant, and it's absolutely not the creative place to be. And the nervous system is also something that we want to regulate, not only for our relationship with money, but our relationship with everything.
Our health.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big, big part of allowing and inviting our intuitive flow. So when I'm teaching women about how to live an intuitively lived life, helping them to relax and understand how they can also work with their nervous system, because for some people it feels really scary to approach this like, oh my God, I'm going to have a relationship with my intuition. I'm going to actually be the co-creator. It feels scary because they're in a normal life where they're in the ocean and the waves are crashing. And so we can't really kind of say, okay, well, let's do all of the work in the anatomy of your intuition, because they can learn that theory, but they're still in the crashing ocean.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because once you learn how to get into a more calm space, there is a part that often comes up and it's like, well, this is boring. Right? Because I'm used to those big waves crashing. And there's an adjustment period in this and of the calmness and the safety. Most people are like, oh, I don't know this feeling. And I'm sure you've heard, they talk about how the nervous system always chooses a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven. And when we are shifting our relationship with money and everything has been stress and stress and stress, and then get to a place where you're like, okay, I feel calm and relaxed about it. There's a little part that's like, oh, let's go and create some chaos. And there's that work to do that, okay, like I recognize that there's a part of me that is so addicted to that chaos, and let me bring love and compassion to that part so that we can all coexist in this nice, chill waters together.
Yeah, because humans are excellent at self-sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
We're so good at it, and we know ourselves so well. We know what to do to get that chaos back, so that we're in our own drama. Like we want to be, like this is an attachment to being the heroine of the story, where the heroine is always needing to overcome, instead of like, what about if you're the heroine who's got access to all of your superpowers and a whole amazing community and network, and you're making better things happen? But again, it takes time, and it takes like being in this allowing of this relationship to develop, allowing of understanding yourself as this energy being and understanding your nervous system. Because one of the things I've noticed recently in my relationship with money in particular is needing to remind myself that I'm safe. Because I am, thank you very much, Heather, and other people and myself, who is actively changing my relationship with money. I have more money now than I did months ago. But I still need to keep reminding myself that that money's not going to go anywhere, that it's not going to suddenly disappear and I'll be unsafe again, that this is my new normal. Like that's the place I'm at now, which is where it's like, okay, my nervous system has actually calmed down.
Yeah.
And now I'm needing to kind of like reaffirm to myself, this is normal to have that much money in your business, to have that money flowing, and for it to feel flowing, that you can spend it and that there's money coming back. And I don't know how long I'm going to be in this place, but I'm committed to being in this place until I don't need to tell myself anymore, Deborah, this is normal and you're safe. Everything's fine. I don't know how long I'll be here, Heather, and I don't think I need to know.
No. It's just this gradual process that as you embody, you'll look back and be like, oh, I'm not in that space anymore.
Yeah.
So like, oh, I have to get into the space. We end up staying where we are because we are clenching again, and I have to get this outcome instead of let me just take this step by step by step and know that it's a gradual process. And I tell people all the time, like, change is something that is more lasting when it's in increments than when it's this big, massive thing. Like you can go to a boot camp for a weekend and work out, and yeah, your muscles are going to be sore. You're going to be feeling it, but it's going to be very different results than if you go and work out 3-4 times a week consistently for 6 months, for a year, for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But most people,
yeah.
I want to do the boot camp once and have everything be changed and different. It doesn't work that way. I wish it.
I've been saying that more and more often in my work too, because people do get attached to this. If I do this thing, then I'll get the thing. And it's like, it's not actually about the thing.
Right.
It's about your relationship with yourself and owning it. And then,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's also a part of the world that we've created, that there's the quick fix, or the one hit wonder, or take the pill, or do this, and
Yeah.
7 seconds later. And it's like, well, what about if it was just your whole big, beautiful life?
Mm-hmm.
And you can make a choice to be in that. Yeah. Because it goes back to that point number one. If only I had this, then everything would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, my magic maker friend, now you have more information about you and money. And most importantly, your relationship to money. So now you get to choose your own adventure. You can click immediately on to episode 2, part 2, and learn more about these money archetypes. Plus, in the show notes, you're going to see that there's a link to a quiz that you can do to find your own money archetypes, which is your top one. So you can continue now and dive into these money archetypes. Or you may choose just to actually pause and have some reflection, do some journaling. Talk to a friend about money, talk to your partner about money. You may choose to do that before diving into the archetypes. Choose your own adventure, smile, and create the space for yourself where money can be a dynamic relationship where you get to play and create what you want. Blessings, my friend, and blessings of abundance for us all.